Item 9C, approve, design, and adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Redgwick Construction for the San Bruno Avenue Street Medians Improvement Project in the amount of $1,278,045 and approving a construction contingency of $191,707. Also authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for construction management and inspection services with Park Engineering, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $132,613. Also approving a total budget in the amount of $1,815,311. And finally, approving $475,000 from the Measure A fund and $632,831 from the General Fund Capital Reserve.
Thank you, Vicki. Jimmy.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. The project in front of you tonight is in regards to the award of construction contract for the San Bruno Avenue Medians Improvement Project. San Bruno Avenue serves as a major east-west arterial for residents and is also highly used by work commuters to get to their destinations, such as YouTube and Walmart.com. Several years ago, the city completed the Medians Improvement Project along San Bruno Avenue segment between Skyline Boulevard and I-280, Interstate 280 on and off ramps, and it has been the city's intent to continue the work to improve the medians for the entire San Bruno Avenue. And this current project will improve the lower San Bruno Avenue medians from Interstate 280 to Elm Avenue. So this slide shows the project limits for the project. And the overall goal of the project is to enhance the appearance of San Bruno Avenue, and it's also to implement the pedestrian improvements to promote walkable connections for residents and commuters. The scope of work includes reconstructing the existing medians by replacing landscaping with more drought-resistant plants, installing drip irrigation systems, and installing new and replacement curb ramps to create accessible pedestrian routes. So here's some slide here that kind of shows the some of the work proposed for the project. The work covers the median that's directly underneath the Interstate 280 by installing interlocking pavers. At the intersection there at the interstate, on and off ramps and San Bruno Avenue, there will be audible pedestrian push buttons, LED countdown pet signal assembly, and new curb ramps. And along the landscaping, there are interlocking pavers and landscaping with new irrigation systems. That's shown in red. At the intersection of Cherry and San Bruno Avenue, there will also be, audible push buttons, LED countdown timers, and then curb ramps. This shows the intersection from Cherry all the way to Elm along San Bruno Avenue. Again, landscaping in the medians with some locations with interlocking pavers. There will be a radar feedback speed limit sign installed in the approximate locations that are indicated in the arrows. There will be new curb ramps installed at Traeger Avenue, and at Elm there will be audible push buttons and LED countdown pet signal assembly and curb ramps. So the city received a construction grant for this project under the Transportation for Livable Communities, a grant provided by the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, One Bay Area Grant Program, and the amount of the grant is $735,000 and requires a local match funding of 11.47%. And this design for the project was completed in February, and staff advertised the project for bid, and 3 bids were received on March 23rd, and what bid price is relatively close to one another. And the lowest bid was from Redgwick Construction in the amount of $1,278,000, which was approximately 35% higher than the engineer's estimate. Staff reviewed the bid materials from Redgwick Construction and submitted the bid is complete and accurate, and the firm has completed numerous projects involving like signal, concrete paving, street improvement, and underground work for agencies such as Caltrans, cities of Atherton, Oakland, San Jose, and San Mateo. Based on the experience and performance, staff determined that the firm meets the qualifications to perform the work on this project. In addition to the construction contract, staff is recommending approval of contract with Park Engineering to provide construction management and inspection. Due to the federal aid grant requirements, there is a need for a dedicated inspector and CM firm that has experience managing federal aid funded construction projects to be on the team. Park Engineering was the only firm that submitted the proposal, with 2 other consultants declining. The firm is highly qualified and experienced in managing federal aid-funded projects and has successfully provided construction management and inspection service for cities such as Daly City, Menlo Park, San Mateo, Orinda, and Millbrae. In regards to the fiscal impact, there is a need for additional appropriation of approximately $1.1 million for this project. Since the grant only covers the construction portion of the project, the cost, which is, is still inadequate, the construction costs for CM and staff time are needed to complete the project. So there is an available balance of $475,000 for Measure A fund this fiscal year, which can be allocated to the project budget to supplement the construction cost. To make up the budget shortfall, the remaining amount of approximately $633,000 is being proposed to be allocated from the general fund capital reserve and reimbursed back using the next fiscal year's Measure A and gas tax funds if the council chooses to award the project tonight. The general fund capital reserve currently has approximately $1 million in available funding dedicated for the paving project, which can be used. So, however, with this option, the next fiscal year's Measure A and gas tax funds would reduce and limit the city's ability to perform the paving and sidewalk replacement projects. So the other alternative is to request staff to repackage the project into smaller segments and limit the work to certain areas to meet the construction budget. As based on the lowest bid received, staff estimates the cost to complete the work from Interstate 280 to Cherry to be about $600,000, and the remaining of the work to be about $700,000. Staff reached out to CCAG to determine whether repackaging the project will be a feasible option, and CCAG informed the city that the city can reduce the limits to which the city feels may be awardable and keep the other areas as additive bid items, and it can award them if the bids comes in low. CCAG also mentioned that by keeping the other areas in the bid as additive bid items, this will allow these projects to remain consistent with the environmental documents and the original project description. So repackaging the bid will require staff to coordinate with the consultant and may require redesign of certain sections of the medians for the irrigation system. However, it's currently unknown whether the new bid prices will be higher or lower until it's bid. If the city council selects this alternative, staff anticipates returning to the city council in approximately June to award a construction contract. And this project needs to be awarded by June, as the city may risk losing the grant if the project is extended further. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Michael? Thank you.
So, one comment is that I'm generally disappointed with our ability to maintain the landscaped medians. They get shabby pretty quick, and I know we've added positions in parks to help take care of them, but they're not easy to take care of. You have to stop traffic if you want to go out there and do things. So I don't know that I'm in favor of adding more landscaping if we can make it look nice without landscaping. I think not only is it cheaper to maintain, but I don't know. I think that would. I like the idea of maybe doing something smaller and not having to dip into reserves. There's a lot of other projects I know, even like painting curbs. That, there are other projects that might be more important to safety and to quality of life in the city, filling more potholes, resurfacing more streets. So if we're digging into reserves for a beautification project, I understand the importance of it, and I want the city to look nice and appealing, especially in one of the major corridors. But if we're depleting money that could possibly be going someplace else, I understand there's a grant portion of it, so it's not all of our money, and we do need to spend it. But the dipping into the reserves part, I'm a little leery of.
To the chair, I was going to echo your same comments. It's exactly the note that I had is, over time, I've seen a lot of medians in San Bruno get updated, and it doesn't take much time. The weeds come through, it's something we don't have staff time to maintain. So putting any money towards something that says drought resistant, yeah, it's still going to cost water, you're still going to get the weeds, and so I have big concerns. And I also echo the second comment, what are the other options other than dipping into the reserves?
Marty?
That'll make three. We're not in the financial position to be concerned about, the looks of things too much. Our priorities are safety. So definitely where we can utilize that grant, and if it's primarily tied up with the pedestrian site with the signals, that would be great, because that would be one way of capturing that full part of the grant, if that's correct. Is the grant for the signals, or is it for the overall project? Is there a way that money is tied up?
It's for both. It's landscaping and pedestrian improvements.
So we can use it either or. If we decided to repackage it and make sure we did the signals, and then the landscaping is the least important in my view for the comments said here, and definitely not. I don't want to dip into reserves. Our streets are way more in need than some fancy pavers down the middle of a median. So staff could repackage it. If it's possible to repackage the signalization and leave the medians out of it, and or however you're going to do the add-ons, but the main project would be the pedestrian improvements for the safety element of it, and then adding on whatever amount that you come up with is what I'm thinking, if that's okay, if that's doable.
That's something that we would need to discuss with CCAG, because the grant covers both the pedestrian and the landscaping improvements. So if one just moves forward without the other, I don't know whether they'll approve that.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess those are my comments there.
Irene?
Through the chair, is there a way to re-look at the landscaping itself? I tend to agree with everyone. Our medians start to look shabby pretty quickly. Is there a way to pave over some of the dirt that we have there now and just keep the trees, and that would lower the cost, or would it not? I mean, is there... I'd like to keep all the safety things and see if there's some way to do a cheaper landscaping improvements, if we could possibly do that.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that.
Okay. Is that, I don't know if that's agreeable to everyone, if they can manage to do both by changing the landscaping, maybe putting cement in there for a lot of it, a lot more than there is now, and keeping some of the trees, if that's a possibility.
We all like trees.
That looks like alternative 2.
The removal and replacement. Well, this one has replacement of landscaping, so it would be not as much, I guess. Anyway, can we agree that if staff can figure out how to do both in a cheaper way?
And not dip into reserves?
And not dip into reserves. Or the minute, if there's a little tiny bit.
A little bit.
If we can, yeah.
So I think council is starting to ask, on the grant, you don't have the answer, we understand that, whether it precludes that if we just start going down one path. Other options than other going into reserves and the landscape, and I think you have a unanimous council as far as some of its ongoing maintenance concerns. I know I've been up here, and when I used to work for Parks and Rec, I'd always hoped, and I'm sure we have, is we actually go to those that are in the field, that are doing the work, that understand it the best, to find ways of more efficiency and making things easier as far as trying to maintain that and safer. So hopefully that's always being asked. But to staff, is there options for that?
So what I'm hearing from the council, and I believe this is direction that we can proceed with, as follows: repackage for rebidding the project after consultation with CCAG in order to maximize utilization of the grant funds, redo to minimize maintenance requirements for any landscaping, and overall prioritize the safety pedestrian safety improvements over landscape to the maximum extent possible. Now, that may mean that we may be able to repackage the entire project to accomplish that. It may mean cutting the project into a smaller area. But if I understand the council's interests correctly, and I forgot to say, minimize, eliminate use of reserves. So with that direction, I think we understand our task is to look at all possible options to accomplish those objectives by repackaging and rebidding the project. Is that correct?
I would agree.
Michael, Marty?
Yes.
So with that, we have a resolution for the design resolution, which would be modified. So can that proceed with that being modified from what the resolution we have in the packet?
Okay, I may need the city council to, I'm sorry, the city attorney to elaborate, but in essence, your direction needs to, your action needs to include rejection of all the bids and direction to rebid. So we can accept that action or that direction by city council and that action by minute order.
Yes, you could simply make a motion to reject all bids and direct
Okay.
staff to pursue alternative number 2 with the direction that you've already given.
What he said. I move to reject all the bids and direct staff to do alternative 2 with the directions that we gave. That's a motion?
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Staff has direction?